Hello, my name is Tony Dastra, and what you're about to watch is a presentation. Intended audience is Arizona State University, but if I submit this to the township, this could become a matter of public record for reference. So my project here is on zoning and property maintenance violations and permits. Within Lancaster Township, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. I, for the last few years, have worked in the township in a various amount of capacities, the longest serving of which being the Public Works and Planning and Zoning Administrative Assistant. So, as part of that day job, I go around inspecting properties for outdoor maintenance, and I myself bear witness to just some interesting daily observations, such as, oh, this rental unit constantly has this issue, or this property owner constantly has this issue. And it's things like that that kind of stick in my mind. Those things that which correlate to conversations in the public realm, such as, oh, homeowners take better care of their properties than renters. And where I initially started this project was, one, I wanted to create better efficiency for the planning and zoning department, because I'm driving around all 6 acres of Lancaster Township, all 6.06 acres to be exact, on a very frequent basis. And some days I'm so lucky to hit the entirety of our township. And those are the days where I don't have many violations to find. In any case, what this project has turned into is actually a potential new operation, frankly, for Lancaster Township, but it's also one that I've never seen performed, at least myself, by municipal government. So let's walk through this. Let's walk through this real quick, because that was a long intro. So here you can see permits mapped. I hope you are looking at an associated PDF or printout, or you're here watching me give a presentation live. Permits mapped. You can see here and here there are more permits than there are violations, and you can already tell certain clustering. There's and I can draw on this one. There's more here in terms of permits than there are violations by far. And also I would argue even you can see some difference here and there. So I go further. We took this data, we did not compile it into 2 different maps. I can explain why later, or in one map, I can explain why later. But then we have our hotspot analysis, where I took census block groups and put this data into its associated block group. So now I can see, like, okay, we have a hotspot here, we have a cold spot, 2 cold spots here, but we have 0 cold spots when we look at violations. We only have 2 hotspots. We have this large census tract and this smaller one on the east side. Interestingly, there could be an observation made that our municipal facility, our municipal office is located about here, and these 2 areas are considerably further. However, the clustering really occurs here and a little bit here. There's not a lot of clustering here, but there are more permits here. But again, there's some clustering here and here. So I ran through this hotspot analysis, but then we took a break. Because I needed to look at new sets of data. When I started this project, I was looking at census data, such as median income, homeowner rates, and in discussions with my professor, I realized that the data wasn't going to be satisfactory because of the error, the standard error potential. So I took a bit of a novel approach. I used county parcel data and checked whether the owner's address matched the parcel address. Because if they did, you can reasonably assume that the homeowner lives there. If not, otherwise, I did do some modifications of my own and identified some other properties, because some rental places have their main office, which is also on the property, as their mailing address. So I did have to look through this data myself. But so I identified all these parcels you can see here. The blue is rented units, or rented parcels. The purple is homeowner occupied. And then I also associated this to block groups as well. There are only I think 13 block groups, which it would be preferred to have more units. This goes to the conclusion. So I just listed every individual rate. It ranges from 70% down in this area to 92% home ownership rate up here, which there is some, I just know from knowing my municipality that there is a significant amount of wealth in this area. These are the wealthier parts of the township. That region, not so much. But then we took ordinary least squares analysis for these permits. And when I did, this is when I really knew the approach that I had come into this with was not going to work, because it just was really odd to me that I didn't have any cold spots on either of these maps for permits or violations. I only had hot spots, I guess there is cold spot, but it was also mellow. It was also average. It was all pretty close. Essentially it felt like this one census tract, which I called the Southwest, the SW, really took away from the rest of it. And it's easy for it to do that when there's only 13 groups to look at. But you can already kind of tell visually, if you really go through the data, see these clusters here, 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 and you see these 3 individual peninsulas, you start to think these should really be 3 separate things, but the census doesn't look at them that way. And even if I took the data on a block level and did my own analysis, I don't know how accurate that would be, because it's not necessarily representative of the neighborhoods for sure. So to conclude this project, for the sake of Arizona State, I just removed that census tract and redid the analysis, because then we did start to see a little bit more difference. Like, we have a cold spot here for violations, which I thought was pretty interesting because the home ownership rate is low there, which kind of went to my original intent. And we see a hot spot here, which I, again, found interesting, because that's the area when I do my inspections, I get the remark most that, what are you doing here? This is the city. And I respond, no, this is the township. It's an awkward situation, frankly. It speaks to the complications of a municipality with such a large space between its people. So anyway, I know this is probably getting to be a long video. So at the end of the day, what this project has done for me, and you can see this in the addendum, which I mentioned here, and I will be submitting for class as part of this poster, is a letter, which may have some revision yet, but a letter I intend to submit to my employer in addition to the final map, or final poster, which speaks to the need for us, or rather the opportunity for us to preempt a future comprehensive plan and begin a little bit more of an intimate relationship with our residents, where, one, I'm proposing we reach out to our residents. Ideally, I'd love a 10% response rate, and a 10% response rate that is level throughout the township. I want to focus on not having hotspots, because I want residents, much like I'm drawing circles on this map, to draw a bunch of circles on a map and potentially help us identify culturally how they view their neighborhoods, or if they don't feel they are in a neighborhood, which another issue with the block group analysis here, there are actually census tracts that are not included in the block groups because our political subdivision is a little wonky around this part of the world. It's the Pennsylvania municipal system, what can I say? So I'm proposing that we reach out to our residents so they can help us identify their neighborhoods or lack thereof. That sets a great foundation for us. And then 2, with these respondents, we can now follow up and improve upon increasing our connection with surveys, which we can start to ask them simple questions such as, actually ones that you would find on a census, like what is your median, or I'm sorry, what is your reported income for last year? How many people live in your household? How many cars do you own? We do have to be mindful to keep a level of anonymity. These are going to be responses. I'm sure there's going to be a level of security concern. However, with a map, with this data, we can begin to understand more intimately and more regularly and consistently, because census data only happens once every decade, and there is room for error. There will be room for error in our work product as well, but the difference will be that by building a system in which you're engaging your residents in this way, while this is census data is definitely helpful for the federal government, and I think 13 block groups might be reasonable for the federal government to try and understand our community, I know, based off looking at this one census tract, that it would go a significantly longer way in our local conversations for us to be able to describe what at least I see as 3 separate neighborhoods and unincorporated properties that live in these areas. Because you have a solid neighborhood here in Hawthorne Ridge. You also have Wedgwood in that area. I'm sorry, Hawthorne Ridge is here. That was Wedgwood. You have Wedgwood here. You have Sterling Place here. And you have Southern Village here. And then you have smaller developments that aren't really so big but could constitute a neighborhood, such as Mill Race. And you also, a Gentleman's Way over here. So there's a lot for us to find out about our community that I believe would go significantly, it would have a significant impact in a comprehensive planning effort, which there have been whispers of, and updates to any comprehensive plan that is produced. Because the unfortunate thing about most comprehensive plans throughout our country and beyond is that governments will create a plan and then put it on a shelf and never look at it again. And if there's anything I take of value from my previous degree program, it is community planning. And I think that this project has opened my eyes to the opportunity of a municipality as small as Lancaster Township, Pennsylvania. I should say Lancaster Township, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, because there are 2, in our potential to communicate with our residents and have an impact through data and understanding, which we are consistently using to improve the community. I do not know how long this video was, but I hope you'll forgive me, school, if it was over 5 minutes. I kind of got into a flow. You can see my data source, where I pulled these data sets from down here, and a methodology to which I produced this map. Thank you for your time and attention. I have a couple more credits to get, but it has been an absolutely delightful pleasure to learn how to use geographic information science in my daily life, because when I do stuff like this and it's part of my day job, thank you, ASU, because you've definitely impacted my life in a way I didn't anticipate. I truly thought I just was coming to Arizona State for a degree when I first signed up almost a decade ago. Thank you.